It's Thursday night. You know what that means. It's time for Magic and Martinis. Please welcome your host, Scott Wells.
And there we are. Now I'm here, and I've got it all together. I think maybe this shouldn't be I should have had the first two before I had this one before we get started. But I want to welcome everybody who's already getting here. Hello there, John. I see that John Custer again joining us as he does every week. Now we're getting things back together again. Glad to have you in from Michigan. I know that a little bit later, probably Harriet might join us also. She also often comes to us from Michigan. And also that Richard Tracy from Arizona, one of the friends of the Magic Word. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you were here, as well as Gene Protus, who is here from Houston, and another one of the friends of the Magic Word. Just a quick thing, by the way, that today on the Magic Word, we happen to have Sean Begonia, or Begonia, however you wish to pronounce that. And he is our guest. And I've gotten already more correspondence, more texts and messages about what a great conversation that was with him, and what a creative guy he is. And I would highly recommend that you go and check out today's podcast. It was released just this morning. So check that out. Hey, JD, over there from Austin, Texas, the guy who really puts together a lot of lectures. Cheers to you. Thanks a lot for coming in, then. I appreciate you being here as well. Well, tonight we got a lot of fantastic guests that I am really just honored and proud to have here for this second of our new season, I guess you would say, after taking a couple of weeks off and starting into the new year here. So let me get started by introducing our first guest over here. And as I normally do, rather than telling you a little bit about the person, I'm going to let the video kind of do the speaking on his behalf. And there he is. There's Mr. Elliot Hitchcock. Hey, Hitch, how you doing, man?
Oh, great. How you doing, Scott?
Fantastic. I'm so glad that you joined us here tonight. And what have you got? What are you drinking there this evening?
I have secret. It's a secret. I can't tell you.
It's a secret.
All over the place. Maybe it's not as safe as I'm making it out to be. I don't know. But yeah. Well,
all right. Well, let's bring in our next guest, also from Las Vegas, which you kind of start to see. There's a theme going on here.
Greetings, everyone. This is Jeff McBride from the Magic and Mystery School. And if you don't know about Tim Wise, he's known by everybody in Las Vegas. He's a massive contributor to the Las Vegas magic community. He's the host of the Las Vegas Wonderground and has been there since the very beginning. He's worked with some of the top names in magic, Siegfried and Roy. He's worked for David Copperfield. He's worked here at Mystery School. He's hosted his Hollywood Stars of Magic, which hosts the top names in the world of magic. He's an incredibly skilled performer, works at the Magic Castle, and if you don't know him, get to know him now.
Only on Abra.tv.
And there's no better way than getting to know him than through Abra TV and live right here tonight. There he is. Hey, Tim. Hello, my friend.
How you doing, pal? Hey, how you doing, Hitch?
hi, Tim. How are you doing, buddy?
Good. Good to see everybody. Thanks for having me, pal. It's just going to be fun.
It will be. What have you got? What is in your glass?
Well, I just finished, so I have to go. I'm going to have to refill. And if I get a little sloppy, then I'll just let you guess.
Yeah, I think that the people who are just now joining us don't realize that we kind of got together a half hour early.
Yeah, we kind of started early. And so I'll try not to be too belligerent.
Yeah. Does my nose look a little bit red? I don't know. All right. Hey, let's bring on our final guest over here to get the rest of this party started.
Hello, my name's Al Ackerman, and welcome to my channel. If you like card magic, make sure you click on subscribe. Now today I'm going to do a routine. It's more of a gag for magicians. It's called Real Gone Aces. Let's take a look. I'm going to do something here with 4 cards from this deck. I'm going to use the aces. But you notice there are only aces in the deck are these four guys that I have sitting right here on top of the deck here. Diamonds, clubs, spades, and hearts. Now what I'm going to do with these four, I'm going to place them out on the table. We're going to have four players in our hypothetical game, and I'm going to add 3 cards on top of each of those aces. Your job to watch the aces, just a tap. Gone. Another tap. He's gone. Another tap. They're gone. And our last tap. Really gone. Hey, if you like the effect, give it a thumbs up. If you like card magic, make sure you click on subscribe. Now, the name of this routine was called Real Gone Aces. Ed Marlowe introduced the plot back in the 50s, and over the years he probably has published half dozen or so different methods to make this effect happen. I published 2 so far. The methodology for this routine appeared in my Ackerman 2004 lecture notes. Hope you enjoyed the effect. My name's Al Ackerman, and I'll see you next time.
But you don't have to wait till next time. You can see him live right here. There's the man, Alan Ackerman. Mr. Ackerman, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Yes, hi,
Excellent.
everybody. Yeah,
Hey, what do you say, pal? Nice to see you.
nice seeing everybody. Yeah.
I'm glad you're here. I just had a comment also from George Schindler saying there was no sound. Could you guys hear him okay on the
Yeah,
video?
I can
I
hear you.
did, yeah.
Okay. Maybe the George just needs to turn that up a little bit over there. Speaking of which, he's going to be my guest next week he's already been on this show, but he's going to be my guest on the podcast for next week. Well, listen, the reason I really wanted to kind of bring everybody together over here is because that there have been a lot of things that have been happening in Las Vegas over this last year and still continuing to happen on the magic scene. And I'm not talking necessarily just about on the strip or off the strip and doing casino shows and that kind of thing, but other types of organizations and clubs and places for magicians to go and hang out. Because right now what this is a virtual hangout, since we can't be at conventions or pubs or wherever to kind of hang out in mass anymore like we used to. And so I think it was kind of interesting to have these gentlemen here to talk about some of the venues that are open to magicians to come. But also, as I said, a lot of things have been happening. And in particular, that as we all know who are here then tonight, that we have Siegfried Fischbacher of Siegfried and Roy had just passed of pancreatic cancer yesterday. And so it was just sad to hear about that. Obviously, that's not something that just creeps up on you. Obviously, it was keeping it very quiet until actually came time for his passing. And there were some other problems, I think, along with that. But I'm sure that each of these gentlemen will all have some stories that they can tell kind of about Siegfried. And one of the things too, I remember hearing, for an example, that when Gary Darwin used to have the Wednesday night magic club going, that it meets at midnight, and that oftentimes that Siegfried and Roy would kind of happen in, as well as a lot of other people. Is that one of the reasons then over there, Alan, why that Gary had decided to do that at midnight?
Yes, that's exactly the reason. So back in the 70s and 80s and early part of the 90s, all the pros that were working on the strip would always come to Gary's club. And typically, it wasn't just every now and then, it was every week. Siegfried would be there, and every now and then Roy would be there. And sometimes they'd bring the showgirls with the shows with them, and it was really kind of an event. And Lance would come, and if there were like visiting magicians in town, they would always come. So it was quite the event. And the attendance back in those days was usually typically around 60 people would show.
Wow. And they changed places, didn't they?
Yeah. So let's see.
They were boomers. I think.
Going in 71, 72, and there was a bar on the strip, and I can't remember the name of it. It's long gone. And that's where we used to meet. We were probably there 6-7 years. And we moved over to Pat's Chinese Kitchen. We moved to the Jockey Club. And then we moved to a place called Boomer's Bar and Grill. And then about 5-6 years ago, we moved over to Tommy Rockers, and that's where the club currently still is.
I'll tell you though, I was going to say, Alan, when I first came to Vegas about 25 years ago or so, I showed up, a friend of mine, AJ Olson, as you know, from Street of Cards days. He says, "Oh, you got to go to Boomers." I went to, or it wasn't Boomers. Well, anyways, when I went there, it was like a magic convention happening. Like, I go, "Is this happening every week?" "Oh yeah, this is every week." I went,
Yeah.
It was the most compelling reason to move to Las Vegas was that meeting, because there was so much happening. I met so many magicians going through there. And of course, Gary became a very good friend of mine. Spent a lot of time with Gary at home. And what an honor. And that club is just awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah, and then Jimmy Grippo was there hardly would ever miss unless he had a gig out of town. He would be there every week.
Yeah, and access, really, when you think about magicians and having access to magicians, that club was it. You had a question for Lance or Gary. I just love Gary, because anybody who came into the club, Gary would say, "Show me your best blank."
Right.
Show me your best sponge ball moves. Show me your best silk move. And Gary used to tell me that's how he was educating himself, because there's so many people that float in and out of the club that he would learn a new move, or also, this, tell me your best blank joke.
Right. Yeah. He loved his joke collection. That's
armadillo joke. I mean, we used to joke that we could call Darwin at any time with a group of people and say, "Listen, name a subject," and then get Darwin on the speakerphone, and he would crack you up for about 20 minutes with just rolling punches after punches after punches. I miss.
Can you think of one of his jokes or so? You or
yeah, but I can't say it. It's too colorful.
How true.
Yeah. So great memories. And Lance really took care of Gary toward the end there, and really paid homage to him. We had we were just talking before the show about the last couple meetings that Lance put together that had a couple hundred people show up at Tommy Rockers there. Just great. Yeah.
Well, likewise, that now that was every Wednesday, and it continues on every Wednesday. And I think you were saying then also there, Alan, how that right now that there are still like about 10 people or so that even during this time of quarantine that are coming out midnight and together.
Yeah. So some of the younger folks are showing up. Yeah.
Interesting. So I wanted to find out then also, kind of moving along then a little bit, actually going back a little bit in history, since we were talking a little bit about history, about Gary Darwin and everything, that I know, Elliot, there for a while, you were sponsoring the monthly Magicians Roundtable, and you had different people who would come in on a Friday. Isn't that right? And then they would give a little talk or something. Can you tell me something about what that was or how that developed?
Sure. Yeah. What happened was I arrived in Vegas about, I guess, 6, maybe 7 years ago now, and I didn't intend to stay. And I had my back went out on me, and so I was more or less stuck here, if you will. And I because I knew I was going to be in town for a little while, I wanted to put together something where the magicians in town could get together. I certainly knew of Gary Darwin's, and Gary's. Being that it was a late night Wednesday night, there were a lot of people that were saying it was too late for them to attend and whatever else. So we chose Friday afternoon. And no matter what, and I can tell you that Tim and Alan will attest to this, no matter what you do, it's not right. It's when it comes to hosting magicians. So the idea was that some people say, "Oh, Thursdays are better than Fridays. Fridays are no good. Saturdays, we should do Saturday afternoons or whatever else." And I just locked in on Friday afternoon. And what it turned out to be, we did it. I think we did well over 100 of the luncheons. And
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. A lot of calories. And then I'll tell you, before I go any further, I have to send major kudos out to Scott Hitchcock and to Winston O'Rourke. In addition to all of the other, literally dozens and dozens and dozens of magicians that poured their heart and soul out to help this cause because we did it for no reason other than just to get to know each other and to have a forum like you were just saying, where it was a round table, and every week we would have a different guest hosts, whether it be Johnny Thompson or whether it be Scott Wells or whether it be, whomever, whatever. Tim, weren't you one of our very first or the?
Yeah, I sure did.
I think.
I was one of the first ones. And I've attended the one with Johnny Thompson, and we had, man, it was what was nice about it, and what was the challenge about it, because you would do those Friday mornings, but we would do Wondergrounds Thursday night, and so we would always like, God, we can't get up early. It's it's 5 a.m. we're finishing up,
right.
and then they were so much fun, and Simone was a big part of those as well, and you did a very good service to Las Vegas by having those luncheons, I have to say. I mean, because
one of the other things that happened too was I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. And when I came in, I thought to myself, okay, who potentially can I step on their toes? And I approached those people and said, listen, for the record, I'm not here to steal any thunder. I'm not here to do anything. I'm just here to create a good environment for Magic. And
and one of the compelling things for McBride is that he didn't want to compete with Darwin. That's why Wonderground was Thursday nights.
Well, and Jeff and I have done nothing but support each other throughout. I mean, if you're a member, if you're not, I encourage you to become a member of the Las Vegas Magic Events Group site on Facebook. And I think we're at like 1,750 people, members right now. And so, and I graciously post anything that comes along. Like you yourself know, Tim, if you post something for Abra TV, you just send it to me and it's up. I mean, and it's just about, again, quality and magicians supporting each other.
Yeah, it was you're a very generous liaison.
Yeah.
Was that it? Las Vegas Events Facebook page?
Exactly right. Las Vegas Events, the Las Vegas Magic Events Group.
Magic Events.
Yes, Las Vegas Magic Events Group. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so what we're doing now is we're just anxiously awaiting to get back to doing some special events. I have in the can a couple of things. Tim, you were on one of our panels for the creativity of magic.
That was great. I was with Lorenzo Clark. I remember that. It was a very great session. Where did we do that? At a theater somewhere?
At the AMC Theater. And
yep.
And then we also had a sponsorship for Magic, where Chris Kenner came over and spoke, in addition to Bizarro and a handful of other guys and all that. You can't buy this stuff. And that was just it. Because so oftentimes when a producer of a convention will enlist somebody, they'll say, I want you to cover this, do this, your latest lecture or your whatever else. This was more or less free reign with what we put together. So anyway, right now we're just anxiously waiting to do the next one. I am going to, with my Top Secrets Magic Experience, which is a pop-up magic bar system. I think you can show a video if you like. There's opportunity for how do I say this now? I'm fighting a cold, by the way. Excuse me if.
Well, I'm gonna show that in just a second, but I wanted to ask you also, when you said that people were actually hosting this, obviously that meant, I guess, that they were just there to give a talk or something, or I mean, they weren't paying for anything.
We had a panel. I mean, basically, it was a panel of guys. And, so like, let's say, 7 directors' chairs on the stage. We're all sitting there, and then Elliot would drive the boat and get the conversation started, and then who knows where it went. I mean, didn't we have Goldrake on there, and we had really
some heavy hitters. And I have all the video still to be edited to get out there to the magic world. I mean, this is just super valuable stuff. Yeah. And you and I talked about even making it accessible through Abra TV. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. So anyway, so what I'm doing now with my pop-up magic bar system, the Top Secrets Magic Experience, is I will be hosting. Basically, it's 20 questions. Well, I'll get somebody like Alan Ackerman, who feels comfortable enough to come over to where, in the secret location where I have the magic bar set up currently, and we sit down and we spend half an hour just talking about things. I remember, and Mike Finney would not mind me saying this, I used to produce these events on the East Coast at my Orlando production studio, and Mike Finney was our very first guest host. And what I do is I handle it kind of like inside the actor studio with James Lipton, and I ask questions that no one else is going to ask. And so Mike comes out with the fact that he used to sell weed to people in line at the comedy clubs that he was later performing at. So he would be performing the same people that he just sold weed to in line. This is the kind of stuff that you just don't get at a magic convention. Okay, so we will be doing that, and that's in the next couple weeks, starting up. It'll be every week. There will be another session, and then the guest artists. Again, Alan. You see what I'm doing here, Alan? Take you over here. But then you can get behind the magic bar system and do a couple things.
Are you talking about the top secrets? Well, let me show that.
Elliot brought this to the Wonderground several years ago, and I thought it was brilliant idea concept of having this basically mobile close-up theater that could basically pop up anywhere. And
let me show you that video. It's just a brief video that everybody can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about here.
And Gerard, I see you there, pal. I talked to Gabe Blackstone yesterday for about an hour, and she already told me that the lineup for Colin this year is off the charts.
Okay, so let me show the video over here for top secrets. Wow, that does look pretty darn cool there, Hitch.
It's a toy. There's a joke that we developed it about, I guess, 11, 12 years ago now, and it's pretty funny because the joke is how many road cases does it take to do a card trick, and that's
well, and it's quite elaborate setup, but honestly, the effect is great. So
yeah, thanks. That means a lot. It really does. Yeah. It's been I through the years I've been honored with some of the guys that have gone behind it, like Paul Gertner. I mean, as a kid growing up watching Paul Gertner on the Tonight Show doing Silver and Steel, and then he's behind my magic bar system. I'm just like, wow, I'm not worthy. It's just so amazing. Johnny Thompson really melted my heart when he said bar none, that's the best talking skull in magic ever. And so anyway, we've had a lot of fun with it, and what it did do was it led to what are now very safe how would I say it, devices with the COVID thing. The magic bar system, when it was originally developed, I was working with Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd has the Crystal Head vodka, and we did the national product rollout for Crystal Head vodka, and so I'll comment on that a little bit further in a second. But anyway, so we anyway, Dan Aykroyd said, I love this thing. I want this thing to go on tour. I want it to do 4 nightclubs a night. And I said, it's portable, but not that portable. And so I said, give me a week. So we came back with what are called magic pods, and we shrunk everything down on that magic bar system even further and put them on segways. So now you drive around on segways, performing with lasers, lights, and all kinds of fog and audio and all that stuff. And so because of that, and because of it's an ADA listed device, we're able to go places where other people can't. And we're able to do it with a safe environment. Right now, we're designing and building new Magic Pod systems with a video wraparound screen on them. So basically, it's like a lit.
That sounds pretty cool.
Awesome.
that's my wake up call. But anyway, so so now and then I'll get off my my little soapbox here. Recently, I saw from watching you, Scott, and a couple other sources that there's a product out called Illusion Vodka, and so I reached out to the gentleman that has Illusion Vodka, and he and I have formed a relationship. As a matter of fact, the center photo that you're seeing right now is the beginnings to a Dancing Hank routine, where the Dancing Hank comes to life and dances all around the vodka. The vodka bottles. Bob did a great job putting this product together. There's a lot of interactive, immersive magic with the bottles, and it's a great souvenir novelty piece. It's a great gift. It's got a lot of potential. But what it's also doing, what we're doing with it, is we're taking augmented reality and attaching that to the bottle. So we put the thing in front of it, then it comes to life, and each month there's a subscription base, so it gets you magic tricks, it gets you all kinds of fun stuff to interact with and all that. So I'm really excited to be working with Bob and with Scott Moore, because we're going to be going through a lot of vodka. So anyway,
that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I encourage everybody to try Illusion. If you go to illusionvodka.com, you can check out the product. Okay.
And we're going to be having that soon, available within the next month or two online, that you can order it in, I think, 4 or 5 different states. And we're trying to have a nationwide rollout before long with Illusion Vodka. So,
well, that's part of what I'm working on. When I did the Crystal Head Vodka with Dan Aykroyd 10 or 11 years ago, I said, in this case, I can take this product right to the same people that we did with the Crystal Head Vodka. So we'll see what happens. But
yeah.
Good luck, buddy. Good luck.
Times ahead with this silliness, It's all about branding. It's all about just bringing in everything so that when I am negotiating with venues and all that, I've got so much more impact with my brand by bringing in these extra added additions. So anyway, thanks.
Jarvis had asked about how you rate the vodka, and I think it's pretty good. It's a wheat base, and it's filtered 6 times and distilled 8 times, I believe. So it's a very smooth.
Only you would know that, Scott. Only you would know how many times the vodka's filtered. Okay.
All right. Well, cheers to you. That's true. I'm going to have a drink while we kind of let you talk for just a minute, Tim, because I'm going to actually show this video of the Wonderground, because some people may not have been there and want to know a little bit more about it, and I think this video will explain. Man, that's a pretty good sizzle reel. That tells you a lot about it.
Yeah, what a gas. Jeff McBride's vision of bringing not just a magic show, but all those elements of the Wonderground, the body painting, the tarot reading, the go-go dancers, the close-up show, doing 3 shows in one night for one.
And all of it in a hookah bar. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, in the hookah lounge. And, Jeff originally, let's just talk about how Jeff, I've been working with Jeff for almost 11 years now. And when Jeff produced the Wonderground at the Palace Station. That, and Alan, weren't you part of that? I think you were, but and if not,
I was there a couple of times.
Yeah,
I performed there a couple of times.
Yeah, at the Palace Station, Jeff was producing his hour and a half full evening show on stage, and then produced Wonderground twice a week, Fridays and Saturday nights. And that's when I got introduced to the Wonderground. I was still living in Tennessee, and the Street of Cards website, which was a interactive live broadcast, Aaron Olson took it to the Wonderground, and that's what compelled me to move to Vegas. And that's how I got to be closer to Jeff. And then once I came to Vegas, Jeff said, how would you like to be my stage manager? So it was almost instantaneous from once I arrived that I was involved. And I know Nick Lewin is in our audience tonight, but Nick was on one of our shows. He's was always, if he was available, he would come to the shows. And it became kind of a ritual. What we called it was a mythical ritual. Because when you do ritual, which is what you do here with Martinis and Magic or any kind of ritual, it becomes mythical after a while. And if no one's ever been there, then it is a myth. It's a mythical in story because every one we say, wow, how can we top that one? And then the very next month, it gets better. And I love that clip there because there's a picture of Siegfried. I took that photo of Jeff McBride and Siegfried. That's the cat. I mean, Chris Angel, everybody showed up to the Wonderground because
was that Michael Motion, by the way, that was the juggler with the glass balls?
Yes, I believe it was, and that was at the or if it wasn't, it might have been Bram Charles because Bram does a lot of that work as well. Now, I didn't live in Las Vegas when it was at the Palace Station, but I watched it twice a week from I was living in Sevierville, Tennessee, working for Dollywood, the magic shop there, but we would watch it every week religiously, and then that compelled me to move out west. Really, it was, if it wasn't for Street of Cards, I wouldn't have been to Vegas. And everything since then, I mean, all the vistas that have opened up for me and working. I mean, I worked with Siegfried and Roy as the genie. That was what an honor that was, and that all came through McBride and producing Hollywood Stars of Magic, where Alan was one of our house performers there with Paul Vigil and Johnny.
What was the Hollywood Stars of Magic? What was that?
That was a brainchild that I had. I produced Hollywood Stars of Magic as it was just a brand, and the branding was to, first of all, denote that it wasn't Uncle Joe's magic show. It was Hollywood Stars of Magic, and I wanted to bring all of my friends that worked at the Magic Castle and at that caliber. The kind of criteria for my Hollywood Stars of Magic show is that you had to do television or be part of the castle. You worked at the castle. So about 2 years ago, this month, I opened the show at the Royal Resort, and it was at Darwin's Magic Meeting. And we're talking about Darwin's. We were honoring Norm Nielsen at the end of December, which would be a little over 2 years ago. And I had already put this in motion, already booked the theater, already knew I was going to do 2 shows on Saturday. And I approached Paul Vigil, and he said yes to being my first week. And Johnny Thompson was at the club, and I showed him what I was doing. And I said, hey, Paul's doing this. Would you be willing to do the show? And he said, sure, pal, I'll do it. And by the end of Darwin's, I had Paul Vigil already booked, and then Johnny Thompson was my second performer. And sadly, or fortunately, it was his very last performance that he did. And when he did it at our theater, I have it on film, but I'm not allowed to share it, sadly. But he had said in that show that it was the first time he had done close up in that kind of environment in 15 years. And so what a gas. And then, everybody after that followed suit. I mean, I had Banachek performed at Hollywood Stars of Magic. I had Alan, of course, Greg Gleason, Paul Draper. We had Rocco and just a nice host. And then when I moved it over to Los Sanders Theater last year, we had Johnny Ace Palmer, skilled, it's just great. I mean, really, honestly, Joan DeCour, we had just so many great performers come across that little show, and really got a little momentum before COVID. And so, that's where we are now, is everybody's trying to manage how to create and go online. That's where
that's true. And that's why I was going to bring Alan back in here for just a minute to ask you about your YouTube channel, Alan. That are you contributing new content every week, or how often are you posting things?
Yeah, I try to do it every week. Sometimes it's 10 days, but it started a year ago, my friend from the Wednesday night club, Eben Rockmaker, he's a YouTuber and actually a pro YouTuber, and a very good car enthusiast too. And he said, "Why don't you start doing this?" And I'm not very good on social media, so so I've been doing it for about a year now, a little over a year. I think I got 45 items up there now.
Well, your background though is that you were teaching computer science. Is that right there at UNLV?
Yes, but I just don't like social media.
No.
I can code pretty good, but I'm not a social media guy. But,
Well, and even just to
when I was coding, it was mainly gaming analysis. I started in. So when I got here to Vegas in '71, I got stationed at Nellis Air Base, and said I'm going to get a degree in math to help me with the odds on the pace boards and the card games. And then in '73, I started on my master's degree at UNLV, and of course there was a magician there, Louis Simonoff, who has also was a Wednesday night Magic Club member till he passed a few years back. But anyway, so we got the SimSci computer, and I thought shuffle simulator, and within 2 years I had this software business called Image, and I started doing gaming analysis, not fun stuff like playing games, but for calculating odds on games that you couldn't do via mathematical, you could only do via simulation. And I did tons of stuff for the gaming control board, tons of stuff for Gamblers Book Club. We put out 6 little books on different simulations of the games that then you could code in. I had the code for the program, and you could actually code it in yourself back then. That was back in the 70s. And anyway, everything in my life has come from these crazy things. I got my interest in computers was because of the shuffle simulation and mathematics, all from the cards. So I had a joint career of 3 items over the years.
Do you know Percy Diaconis very well?
No, but I've met him a couple of times, and I got to see him do a 2-hour session up at Cola, Michigan, back in that would have been in the 60s. And I just remember, and of course I would have been about 13 or so, 13 or 14. And I remember just kind of watching him at the table, and Carl Fox was there at the table going nuts. And I said, boy, this guy must be really one of the best in the world for Carl Fox, going absolutely crazy. And then I saw him a few years later at Magic Inc. He was in town for something. And I remember him doing an effect, and it was 6 shuffles later. I thought, oh my gosh, he's actually doing 0 shuffles. And I couldn't believe how good they looked in his hand. Yeah. So I did that. And then I saw him at a couple math conventions over the years too. But not a formal relation at all like I had with Louis Simonoff.
Yeah, I heard that Louis was really quite an interesting fellow, and wasn't he kind of a mentor to Paul Harris?
Well, both Louis, Paul, and I. Paul moved to Vegas in '74, and Louis and Paul, of course, were a little bit closer, but I was often in the sessions with them, and they would often come over to my place of work while I was working on after I got out of the service. I was a lab tech. And they would come over to Sunrise Hospital. I worked graveyards at midnight, and that's where we created Reset and Interlace Vanish, all those things.
Super Magic. I mean, all that stuff.
Between Louis and Paul and I. Yeah, it was kind of a fun time. Yeah.
Great stuff. Great.
What year would that have been? Back about mid-'80s?
74 through 81.
Oh, 74, 81. Wow, even earlier.
Then Paul wound up leaving Las Vegas, 82 or 83, somewhere around
Where's he
there.
live now? Where's he live now?
He's Vancouver, I believe. I haven't talked to him for about a year or two, but the last time I talked to him, he was in Vancouver, Canada.
The last time I saw him, I think, was, I believe, at Magic Live in 2019. I think he was there. I believe that I visited briefly with him there as well.
I want to give a shout out to Bob Fitch out in the audience. Bob Fitch, I love you, pal. It's good to see you.
Yes. Yeah. The Daba is here then too. I'm glad that he was here. I was going to ask you then, Tim, that you took that picture of Siegfried. Do you have any stories about him since he just passed? It was interesting.
Oh, man. People who are listening. Yeah, sure. Why not? I created this Jeff McBride. I think I've told this story before, but I was doing the Wonderground as the host, and one of the body painters came up and said she was going to do a show called the Bad Fairy Ball, and it was going to be at the Erotic Heritage Museum. And she says, "Would you be the host?" And I
didn't know there was such a thing, but obviously it's in Sin City.
I go, "So where's this going to be?" She goes, "Oh, at the Erotic Heritage Museum." And I said, "And I said, "Sure, Suzanne, I'll do the show for you." And so every month preceding the show, she would come up and go, "Are you still going to do the show?" And I said, "Of course, Suzanne." So the day of the show, I'm at Jeff's house, and we're working in the garage. And Jeff goes, "What are you going to wear? You're doing that show for Suzanne tonight." I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, what are you going to wear?" And I said, "Well, I don't really have any costumes. I'm just going to wear my suit." And he goes, "Oh, dude, you can't wear a suit to a fairy ball," and said nothing else. And so about an hour later, we're working the garage. He goes, "Hey, Tim, would you do me a favor?" I go, "What?" He said, "Could you run up to the dry cleaner and pick up this costume for me?" He hands me a $50 bill. I said, "Sure." I drove over to the thing. The lady comes out with a turban and a robe, brings it to the counter. I take it back to Jeff. I go, "Here you go." So he goes, "Put it on." And I go, "What?" He goes, "Put it on." Then he goes to this little costume trunk and he pulls out some baggy pants and a frilly shirt. And I put them on, and I put this big robe on, and then this turban. And I'm trying to look in this mirror on his garage wall to try to size myself up. I was looking at this thing, and all of a sudden, there it is. And Jeff's head pops over my shoulder, and he goes, "That's what you wear to a fairy ball." And so I showed up that night. Jeff came to the show. I was the genie. I did the hosting. I did fire eating. I did the whole thing. And then he says, "Why don't you take this character out on Fremont Street?" So I took the genie out on Fremont Street, and back then I was able to walk freely and do street performing with just one trick. It was great. It was a photo op for people, and I was like the king of Fremont for a long time. And then Paul Stone calls me, if everybody knows Paul Stone, and he says, "Listen, Tim, I'm going to be doing some magic at the Sunrise Hospital with Siegfried and Roy. Would you like to go with me?" And I went, "Sure, I would." And then he says, "Do you know any other magicians?" And I said, "Not that I could recommend." So it was Christmas Eve. And I just realized when I was sitting there in my office, I said, we're going to do this thing around noon. So around 9 o'clock, I called Paul and I said, "You know what, Paul? People aren't going to remember it. The kids at the hospital don't even know who Siegfried and Roy are. They don't. I mean, they have been off the stage probably 10 years by that point, and these kids were under 10." And I said, "They're not going to know Siegfried and Roy. They're not going to know you. They're not going to know me in a suit." I said, "Would it be okay for me to bring the genie?" And he goes, "Let me call Lynette." So he called Lynette and got right back to me, and she said, "As long as I didn't scare the children with the genie." So I brought the costume, not knowing exactly how we were going to do this thing at the hospital. So we got to the ward, and there was a little playroom. I got into my costume. Siegfried showed up. Roy showed up. Siegfried's giving me the once over, like what, and so we went into and Paul Stone was going to do some magic too, but he was going to do something with a latex balloon, and they said no latex, and so it was just me and Siegfried and Roy. And so we weren't going to do a show for all the kids. We were just going to go into the rooms. And so then we went into the room, and the first trick I did was like, that was an experiment. It didn't work. But then I went in, and there's a great photo somewhere. You can find it online of me bedside with a small child with Roy in the wheelchair behind me, where I'm producing a gemstone for the child. And it was the most when I saw that photo, I actually wept, because I remember Blackstone doing kids magic. And I remember, boy, how is this paying it forward, if you will? And so I worked with them for a couple of years. I did some charity work with them, and what an honor, because when I would go into the rooms after that, Siegfried would come in and he'd give the kids some coloring books and some crayons and some DVDs. And then Roy would come in his wheelchair with a stuffed tiger. And then Siegfried would slap his hands and go, now we have the genie. And then I would come in as that character and produce a gemstone for the child. And it was a wish. The kid made a wish. It's a little routine that I've been doing for years. And it was gift magic, if you will. And actually that cemented my relationship with them. And actually I can say I perform magic for them as a performer. I just didn't work with them, but I'm so honored. And sadly, we lost both of them in this last year. There was some place where I didn't know this until later. Joe Krathwall, one of our local bird guys, the Birdman, Joe Krathwall, made me aware of that. Roy had talked about that experience with the kids with the genie. So that was, what an honor, really. It's just an honor to be part of the magic scene in Las Vegas, and then how all of this kind of just comes together if you're willing to say yes,
Yeah. Hitch, I was going to ask you also, you've certainly, as you said, that Siegfried probably had a luncheon he could come to, or some other event that you were at. You got a story about him?
I never cracked Siegfried. Siegfried is one of the few in Vegas that I couldn't crack. I was stalking him down at the Mirage because what he would do is in the afternoons, oftentimes a few days a week, he would show up at the Mirage right outside of the Secret Garden where some of their animals are in display and the dolphins and so on and so forth. And so, but I missed him every time. I would go down there and one of the ushers would say, "You just missed him. He just walked out," or whatever else. Okay. I know. Anyway, so no, I never was fortunate enough to have Siegfried out to one of our luncheons or one of our events. But let me share this one with you. I've been in show business my entire life, and there's been 3 instances where I have felt that extra magical, the it factor out of people. Okay. One of which was John Lennon in a parking lot in Philadelphia at a radio station back in '77. And I just saw him, and he was doing a promotion, and he just glowed. He had this special thing. I don't know, whatever it was.
Yeah, the it factor.
The it factor. And then Michael Jackson, ironically enough, next to Donald Trump at the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. I was working the showboat in Atlantic City back then. Excuse me. And then the third time was I walked into the Magic Castle for Friday brunch, and there's Siegfried sitting there having lunch with Irene, with the princess. And oh my gosh, there was this aura, this glow around him, and it didn't hurt that Irene was right there as well. Just amazing, that energy, that whatever he had. Now, I guess the last Magic Live, Sebastian Conapex, the artist, had produced something for Siegfried, and so I captured it. It's on the events group site. If you want to go on that, you can take a look at this video of Siegfried signing this piece of artwork and the legs. And even then, Siegfried had so much style, so much clarity.
He radiated. I mean, really, he radiated. I mean, and that's really exciting. It's exemplar. And what's the difference? He puts his pants on. Like, I work next to Monty Hall, and I've worked with David Copperfield, and there are people that radiate, and but yet they all put their pants on one leg at a time. So what is the difference? And that's what you have to look at when you get close to that kind of celebrity or that aura, if you will, like you're saying, Elliot. It's almost like you don't even have to know who they are, but you can feel them.
You knew when they come in the room, even if you didn't know what their background was, that there was something about it's like that guy is somebody or that gal. Yeah. What about you, Alan? What was your first experience? I'm sure when you met Siegfried.
Okay, so I met Siegfried back in '71.
Wow.
And,
that was a ways back.
You were kids.
I was still in college.
So I saw him in every show that he did here in Vegas, every venue he was at, all throughout his whole career. And they were all good. Everything was great. And a lot of people don't know this. He was a really great dove guy. I mean, he was as good as Channing Pollock. I mean, he was just terrific. His bird act at the Stardust was unbelievable. I had taken my future wife that I met here in the library here in Las Vegas. One of the first dates I took her on to see that show. And I remember she looked at me at the end. I just stood up and was bravoing. I couldn't believe how good it was. But I want to mention the one show he had. Every show Siegfried did was phenomenal. But the show he had at the Frontier, and he was there quite a few years, was the first full evening magic show here in Vegas. And I must have saw it 25 times. And the cool thing was it was only $15. But you walked out of that show and you would say to yourself, that was better than Frank. That was better than any movie I ever saw in my life. That was the greatest show I ever saw. That's how good that Beyond the Belief show was. It was just, they were funny, humorous. The illusions were fantastic. So even though Mirage Show is great, Gary Darwin said, yeah, the Mirage Show is great, but it was too dark. And it did. It had a little dark theme. This show was light, funny, and amazing, and the animals were amazing, and it was just.
Did you, Alan? Did you see the Hollywood the Hallelujah Hollywood show when?
Absolutely. Many times.
That was the 12-minute Dove Act that made them, right? I mean,
that was just a variety. They only did like about 20 minutes in there, didn't they?
12
yeah.
minutes.
So, and then when they went to the full evening show, I don't know who his agent is. So you probably do, Tim. But he said, no more small bird stuff, just illusions.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at the show that they were doing at the Mirage, where they were having production of big dragons and fire breathing, whatever, and of course lions and tigers and everything, and then he would produce doves. I do remember that the Dove Act was something that was memorable. I remember that well, and I was talking to someone about that, and they said it's interesting you remember that because he didn't do that in the Mirage. That he stopped doing that after they left the Stardust, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, it was producer
at the MGM. He still did it.
Okay.
Yeah, did the full evening show, and I was told Siegfried didn't like the idea, but his agent wanted. The producer said no, and so he just followed the direction. But,
and if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Earl Chaney who introduced Siegfried to Irving Felt. That created that whole relationship right there. That Earl Chaney was working with Ringling,
right?
Was to link the Feld family with Siegfried and Roy, and Ringling is no small potato, right? So that's the and Steve Wynn, of course, as well, who wanted to make it just the best thing ever, and it was.
Well, that shows you the camaraderie and the brotherhood, I guess, of our organization, and as it is there in Vegas then as well, where that Earl can help people, because Earl's been around. He was one of the original Ronald McDonalds, I believe. Isn't that right? And then he was, of course, world famous clown and everything else. I mean, I've had him on the podcast a couple of times. The guy has more stories than Carter's Got Pills.
Yeah, and the nice thing about that, too, when we talk about the camaraderie, we had – Wednesday nights was just the institution of the Darwin Magic Club over 55 years, really amazing longevity. But Earl Chaney also held court at his own Tuesday night Magic Club meeting, if you will, at the Arizona Charlie's over on Decatur.
Well, I didn't know about that.
And that started at 10 o'clock at night and would go, the buffet was open all night. So you would go in, you pay your $5.99, you'd eat dinner, and then after midnight, you'd eat breakfast. And you could stay till 5. Really, Steve Daly was always there. Bizarro was always this regular cast of characters. But again, the camaraderie. Like it's a magic convention every day in Las Vegas if you take advantage of it. Really.
Well, speaking of Steve, by the way, I understand that he's going to be retired, basically.
From performing, he's grew a beard. He, from what I understand, just like you, sir. Has been playing Santa Claus, and he has moved back to Iowa. He's close to his family there, his mother, I believe, and 40 years in Las Vegas as a strip performer, not a stripping performer, but a strip performer. And but yet, what's that?
Is that although close?
Yeah, well, he's a colorful guy, and I love Steve. He's really, he used to say that there's some people that come to Vegas and perform, but he's one of those guys that worked he really did the grind. He was Showgirls of Magic back when I first started coming to Vegas, and ever since working at the V Theater with David Sachs, and what did he do? This last one was the.
He was doing some sort of a drag zombie thing.
Yeah. Zombie burlesque.
Zombie burlesque.
Zombie burlesque.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember years ago, whenever that my older son Sean turned 21, and he's on here tonight too, by the way. And he and then I went out to Las Vegas. He said for his 21st birthday, that's what he wanted to do. And my wife said, I think that's a father-son trip. So we went out there. And we went to a lot of shows, and the Showgirls of Magic was one of them. To see Steve's show and all the rest of the people, that were in the show. And we saw Lance Burton and I don't remember Steve Wyrick and whoever else. It was way back when. That would have been in 1982, I think.
80s. Yep, early 80s.
Yeah. That was something. So right now, as far as just to kind of wrap up over here, the shows that are venues where magicians can go if you're in Vegas, that we have the Wednesday night meeting that and what is it called exactly? What's it called?
Tommy
Rockers at midnight. Yep. And even right now that there are a few people who are still meeting over there. And what's the status then also, Tim, as far as over at Wonderground?
Wonderground is on permanent hold right now. And that's to be expected. I mean, honestly, I think we're fooling ourselves if we're going to be doing anything soon. But Jeff actually did a couple Wondergrounds online here, and then decided that we're just going to put it on pause. And he did that back when he had the Palace Station show. He put it on pause for almost a year and a half, and then brought it back to the Olive from the Palace Station. So, we did over 122 shows at the Olive over the 10 years that we were there. So look for it, but not anytime soon, I don't think.
I would want to put that up also to make sure that you go over to Abra TV to check out that. Do you want to talk about that real briefly?
I can. I wanted to take Hollywood Stars of Magic online. I didn't want to give the show away like everybody else on the internet giving away free magic. I'm looking at all of you right now. Okay. If you give it away, what's it worth? So I wanted to charge for my show, Hollywood Stars of Magic. I charged at my theater. I wanted to charge online. And so while I was building out that show, I found software that allowed me to charge a ticket for it. That then perpetuated me to take my Abra.TV name that I bought 22 years ago and create this new magic network, an aggregate site where you can discover magic, learn magic, watch magic. And so Abra.TV is my new project. I've got Gabe Blackstone producing a new show on there. I've got the SAM participating. I got the International Magician Society. Scott, I hope to have you have some content on there. Working on Harry Lorraine right now. Alan has offered to do some stuff. And so it's a place for you to go and discover magic in all ways. I'm doing the Abra.TV news. I'm very excited about the opportunities that Abra is going to bring to the community. And, I have a channel on there, but it's not about me. It's about the brotherhood and bringing us all together. So
right. And Elliot, as far as tell me about the pop-ups and the top secret thing and what's the status on that?
Right now, we're in top secret rehearsal. I've written some new magic for the show system, and some of it as a wraparound to the Illusion Vodka product. So we're right now a couple nights a week getting together. I'm training some new guys on this bar system. So and writing the new magic and integrating it in with the DMX controls, the lighting, the lasers, the fog, all that kind of good stuff that brings a card trick to life. And Anyway, it's I'm ready for when Vegas opens up again. That's pretty much the best way I can put it right now. I think that, and I'll get on my high horse here for a second. We have a responsibility, folks, as magicians here in Las Vegas, and we're ambassadors to Las Vegas, and we are dealing with a pandemic. We are dealing with a global pandemic. A lot of people say, "Oh no, I don't know anybody that's died from it. It's okay. It's no worse than the flu or whatever." Well, that's poppycock, and I know too many people that have succumbed to it. I'm going to ask everybody out there to really exercise good judgment when you come to Las Vegas. It's a party town, but let's right now just really be aware of what we're dealing with here. Seriously. It's the simple fact is, the sooner we get on top of it, the sooner we're back to work.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's stupid simple. So let's get on top of it, But it's amazing how many people have that arrogance out here, where it's like, I've made it in Vegas. You're not going to tell me how to run my show.
Well, you know who's doing something though. I will say this: Los Sander has figured it out. He's got a small theater. He's got it socially distanced, and he's still with Luna and Eric. Come on,
Stevens.
They're producing little vignette shows there.
Right.
Now, but again, how responsible can we be in a time where we've never had anything like it in our lifetime? We do not know, and nobody's immune to this thing. So if you get it, you get it, and you've got to. So like Elliot says, responsibility, and there are people who just don't think they're going to get it. But the idea here is that to just be responsible, and we'll be back to work soon. It's just now we have to just kind of work this new venue called the web, and
well, exactly, and the rules have changed. There's no question about it. So, like you were talking about Eric Stevens. Eric just announced, I think it was last night or today, is his last show of Inevitable, which was his one-man show that was playing at Lou Sanders. And so, one of the challenges as a producer is getting that momentum and keeping the momentum. And you know that from when you were doing Hollywood Stars of Magic, and it's so hard because you don't know when you go into the theater that night if the theater's going to be there tomorrow or not. But
I think the public's going to be hungry for it. They're hungry.
No question.
Yeah. I mean, really alive. I mean, really all over the world. Live.
Well, we're in a position, Tim, where if we're smart about it as producers, we have the world by the balls as Vegas reopens, because so many of the big players, that have, the Cirque du Soleils and all that took so much of that entertainment dollar out of people's pockets. We, the little guys, have a chance again to introduce something when before there was no opportunity to. The
lounge shows, the smaller shows, the socially distanced opportunities there. And so, hopefully we'll be back to work very soon. And in the meantime, we got to have fun what we're doing right now. And Scott, thanks a lot for this. This has been a blast, pal. I really do appreciate you including me in this. And
likewise, absolutely. Thank you, Scott.
Hanging out with Alan. Alan, I really get to see you. Hitch, nice to see you. We were much more in person, but now this has been great. I really appreciate
next best thing we could do, And Alan, I talked with you the other day when we were doing a tech rehearsal that I have not had the distinct pleasure of actually sitting down and having a cup of coffee with you, but I really look forward in the future to doing this. I mean, again, that we have so many people in common with Roger Klaus and others that we should have met, and I don't know why we haven't. So I'm glad to have you as a new friend over here then.
Thanks for inviting me.
I'm glad you're here. And I intend to be watching some more of your YouTube videos. They looked awesome. Very professionally done and good stuff there too.
And maybe look for them on Abra.tv, right, Alan?
That's right. I'll get back to you in a couple days here.
It won't be too long. And just a reminder then, again, just to everyone that this week that we had on the Magic Word podcast released this morning was an episode that was with Sean Begonia, who is the one who invented the dancing hanky, or the ultimate hanky in the bottle, and the sketch pad, and so many other really great ideas. And he's got another system, a thread system that's out right now. And the stories that he had shared with us really take you on an emotional roller coaster from laughter to weeping. And they're sad, they're funny, they're inspirational, and probably more stories in this episode than I've had in many others. Until we get to the one I'm going to be having with Tim, I've already spoken with Tim. That's going to be coming up in a few weeks next week, and I'll tell you guys a little in advance. And I know that George is online here tonight, but George Schindler will be my guest then next week. I've already recorded that one then as well, so that's going to be coming up next Thursday. That'll be released again at 9 a.m. That's Central Time. And we just also had a contest where we had Romani had 3 ebooks that were given away, and they went to I believe it was Richard Killian, Tom Cerny, and Jeroen Weiss, who is from Sweden, Norway, Stockholm, somewhere up in that area. And so thank you everyone who had entered the contest. And if you haven't entered the contest in the past, then you just need to subscribe then to the pod letter. And that's what I'm saying down here. If you subscribe, just go to the magicwordpodcast.com, and there you can subscribe to the pod letter, find out who's going to be on from week to week, when we have contests, who's coming up next week, and that kind of a thing. Very important to know on what's happening then over there. And we're on all the social media or whatever. So listen, I want to thank all of you guys again for being here tonight, each and every one of you. Thank you, Alan Ackerman, for being here. Thank you, Elliot Hitchcock, and also to Tim Wise. You guys have been just fantastic, and we've just had a wonderful evening and a great discussion. And I thank all of the viewers who have been watching on Facebook and on YouTube then as well. So I'm glad that you tuned in. This was the 32nd episode, I believe, here tonight. And we've got someone else that's going to be coming up next week that I think you're going to enjoy. And this little video will show you as we head out for the evening. And let me see if I can get this queued up here. Oh, there it is right there. I've got it. So again, thank you guys very much. We're going to bail out. Thanks again.
Bye, everybody.